What do you think about the state of news reporting?
Well, I think it's difficult right now. Every traditional media, newspapers, television, have cut resources, so they don't have as many people, and it becomes more difficult to cover the news when you don't have as many reporters to go out and be as many places as they need to be. And one of the reasons they've cut the resources is because advertising is down, because there's so many avenues where you can get your news now, and the advertising dollar is spread out further. So it's made it difficult. I think they're doing the best they can with the decline in the resources that they have. But it is a different era, and there's information that comes from so many different places. What I would say, though, is even though you have lots of what we call citizen journalists, that journalism really is something where you need to be trained. You can't, not everybody can be a journalist. Lots of people can go and talk about what happens, but really being a trained journalist who presents both sides of a story, not only both sides of a story, but who digs deeper into documents and information, trying to get the real story and information that people need to know. That takes training and a lot of work, and you can't just pick up a camera or pick up a piece of paper or get online and necessarily do that.
Okay. How do you think the internet has changed news?
Internet has changed news a lot, some for the good, some for the bad. One thing that's nice is you have access to a lot of information very quickly. You don't have to go back and look in the encyclopedia anymore, or go to the library, or, there's so much information available. The downside is checking that information, making sure it's accurate. A lot of information gets put on the internet that's not accurate, or if you make a mistake, well, two things. One, your stories are read by a lot more people. If you're doing the news in Knoxville, you pretty much have your audience here. Now it could be California, it could be Europe, it could be anybody who's looking at what you produce. But if you make a mistake, it's also out there far and wide. Now, you can correct your mistakes more quickly, but sometimes things get on the internet, mistakes get there, and for example, it may be a local station reports it, it gets picked up by another station, and I talk in terms of television because that's where I worked, or a newspaper, if it gets online and gets picked up and other people get that information, sometimes bad information is repeated over and over and over again, and that's problematic also. But it's expanded the reach, it's given you access to lots of information as a reporter that you wouldn't have had before. It's easier to research people, it's easier to research information very quickly. I worked in the world of television where you did a live shot, you put things on quickly. Now it's even faster, because you just put it online, you put it on the internet so quickly. The downside, once again, to that is you can't do it so quickly that you don't check your information. You've got to, it's a competitive business. It's always about, there's some value to being first and being competitive, but there's also a greater value to checking your information and making sure it's accurate before you put it out there for the whole world to see. And I think there's a temptation to just get it up as fast as you can. I see a tremendous amount of misspellings, bad grammar, because people just want to get it up there. I don't think that's good information.
I see. Do you think newsprint mediums can still compete in the world today?
I think they can. I still read a newspaper. I understand that I'm old and I'm of the other generation. I think that print has always had, and I believe television had strong reporters too, but print's had really strong reporters, and they have reporters who tend to stay longer in one place than, for example, television reporters who really know and understand. I think you need that kind of reporting. They do a lot of their reporting online. You can put more information online than the inches you have in a paper or the minute and a half you have for television. You can expand that story. If I'm interested, I can go to the story online and read more. I think for a while there's still, I wish I knew that answer. I'd be really rich, but I don't know where newspapers are going. As long as, the baby boomers who grew up reading newspapers still want a newspaper in their hand, there'll probably still be a product there. Even though many of us go online to get the information, there are people who want to touch it and feel it. How that evolves, how the world of media evolves into, will we go to a place where it's all online? Two problems with that. the media companies gave it away, so now you can't take that back and charge for it. So they've got to figure out a way to make money, because you've got to pay the reporters, you have to pay, the salespeople. You can't just give out free information, because you have to pay the people to do that. So how do you, and we haven't really figured out, people who will buy an ad in a newspaper may not necessarily want to buy an ad online. People who pay for a newspaper don't want to pay for their online information. So the economic model is not working yet, so you still need that paper to help pay for it. And I think we're evolving and trying to figure out, how we're going to pay for the product that's produced.
That sounds very difficult to answer, I suppose. Do you think there's still a place for newspapers like the Beacon?
Absolutely. I mean, when I come in the morning, everybody I see picks up the Beacon. I think that students want to. News is like politics, it's all local. The niche that local newspapers, local televisions, and I would say the Beacon has, is they write about what's in your neighborhood, what's in your city, what's on campus. So the niche that the Beacon has is it talks a lot about what's going on campus, that maybe people who aren't in college or don't have children in college may or may not care about that information, but the people here in this community care a lot about it. And that's the beauty of, national news. There are lots of places to get it. Local news, right now you have a newspaper, you have 3 television stations, and you have some websites, but people want to know about their own neighborhoods, their own cities. That's important to them. Now, they want to know about national news too, but there are a gazillion places to get that. And one of the strengths of local newspapers, and I would say of the Beacon too, is your audience. And you always have to think, who is my audience? Where's my strength? Who's going to read this? And that's how you tailor your publication. Now, should it be online? I mean, you guys need to tell me. You're the ones. How do you get your information? Do you still want to pick up the Beacon? Would you rather see it online? Do you want a combination? And once again, they need to the economy of how do they pay for it. Do you sell an ad in the Beacon? Do you sell an ad online? We haven't figured out. We don't charge as much for an online ad as you do an ad in the print piece. And sometimes they give away the ads. If you'll buy it in the print piece, we'll give you online. It's the economic model that we have to figure out before we totally get rid of our print publications.
I see. What do you think the future of news reporting will be?
I'm sorry?
What do you think the future of news reporting will be?
I think you'll always have news reporters. I mean, they serve whatever medium they report in or report for. You need reporters to gather the information. I can't go out and find out everything. You need reporters to cover City Hall, to be the watchdog for government, to inform people of what's going on in their communities, your taxes, your health care, all the things that affect our daily lives. Somebody's got to, we can't all go to Washington and sit in Congress. We can't all go to City Hall. I mean, it's open to the public, but most of us don't have the time. That's what reporters do. They gather the information. They investigate the information. They uncover corruption. That's the role of journalism in our society. And I think you've had it since the beginning of our country, and it's always been in different forms. And, we've had, people talk about the blogs, people talk about, the sensational television journalists who are opinionated. Well, newspapers have been opinionated for a long time, like the reporters, but you've always had an editorial page that presented an opinion. Now, the reporting in the other pages is hopefully not biased, is straightforward and presents both sides, but if you look at the history of journalism, there have been some pretty bad rags out there in times gone by. So people can see through that. The public's a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they understand. And when you have good stories, and when people are, the News Sentinel's readership goes up when they're ferreting out corruption in county government. They were selling more papers, and people want to know. They don't want their government to be corrupt. They don't want their politicians to be corrupt. They want honesty because we pay money. And so you've got to have reporters out there digging up the information and delivering it to the public in whatever means they deliver it. And, what's next, I certainly don't know, but there'll probably be something else.